Hello, this is Craig Resnick coming to you from the 2023 ARC Advisory Group Orlando Forum. With me today is my special guest, Jason Andersen, who's Vice President of Strategy and Business Line Management at Stratus, and someone we've enjoyed having on our forum for many years. How you doing today, Jason?
I'm doing great. It's great to be back. Excited to be here, Craig.
Yep, well, great to have you. Great to have Stratus, and I know we've had this little pandemic issue called COVID, and I know that's really put a spotlight on IT/OT convergence, and limited staff, and having to do things remotely. Do you see IT/OT convergence as still critical, and how has it really changed organizations? And thinking about the requirements that you help your customers with digital transformation projects.
It's so funny. I think there's really kind of two things going on in that space. The first one was, as you pointed out, partially driven by the pandemic and skills and resources. So it's really funny because the forum is such a great opportunity to run into old partners and customers, as you know. And one of our best customers was here and was talking about how they got on board with Edge and digital transformation before the pandemic, and they're now doing their second attempt at organizational change to more tightly align IT and OT, and it's going really well. They're really excited about it. So I definitely see that people are recognizing that even without the macroeconomic challenges, there's a need to change. And the ones who started it are evolving, which is really interesting. I think the other thing was less so than COVID, but just coincident with COVID, is cybersecurity. Is that I think when people realize that cybersecurity is a true threat, it's a real problem, where companies are effectively sometimes shut down for weeks at a time. They realized that it wasn't an option anymore. There was a clear mandate for them to drive more IT best practices from the data center out to the edge of their network in order to facilitate doing anything at all, because otherwise it was going to interrupt their business.
Glad you brought up Edge, because what technology trends do you see driving today's edge computing projects, and have the customer's needs changed drastically in the last year or two?
I'd say so. I think there's two things going on there as well. The first is we're seeing this kind of split in terms of the computing aspect of it, where you're seeing a drive at the higher end of the architecture, so to speak, your SCADA, MES, and above. They're buying higher capacity, bigger systems because there's more data pumping through them. They're collecting more sensory stuff. So you're seeing that systems are getting bigger at the high end, but at the low end, they're getting even smaller because of the cost just coming down pretty radically. Of course, if they can get them because of supply chain issues. But when you have that happening, you're starting to see kind of the middle ground of like the IPCs all over the place. It's really starting to bifurcate. And that's really changing the architecture a bit in terms of what's running where and what tasks specific devices are doing. I think that's a big reality. The other is, again, you're starting to see more software just get deployed. It used to be on the factory line, you'd have maybe your SCADA and your HMI, and that might be it. Now it's you have to have maybe potentially some software driving what goes into a digital twin, or what goes into your analytics or augmented reality or what have you. Right? So all that is, you're seeing more software show up, which is driving kind of a shift in terms of how things are deployed and where.
Right. Many manufacturers, as you know, have made investments in cloud solutions, over the last couple of years. So how do you see edge computing, complementing cloud and enabling, organizations to get the most out of their edge operations?
Well, I think cloud is a broad term because you could have a public cloud like what you could do from like an Amazon, or you could build your own private cloud. We were acquired last year by a group called SGH, who has a division that builds out high performance data centers for the world of AI, right? And they have some really big customers in the industrial space. And what we saw as an opportunity between us and them was how we are able to collect, parse, and effectively qualify the data at the edge, what Stratus does. And then it's a really nice way to pass that data in to make it usable and actionable in the cloud, or in like I said, in the enterprise data center. So I'd say that you're finally starting to see this reality set in that we've known about for a long time, which is it's not one or the other. It's really you get the maximum benefit from both. And we're excited about the future of that because, like I said, we now have some folks who are we're now collaborating with a whole bunch of new people in our team to figure that out.
What type of analysis do you see happening, let's say, at the edge rather than the cloud?
Well, I think it has a lot more to do with when you're talking about anything that requires quick decision making. So, for example, at the edge, if it's something that's going to impact that line, a change that needs to be made, very specific and localized, that's really where you're seeing analytics at the edge. When it's something where the value of it is aggregate data, so you want the value of the data / information from many machines or many different sites, it just makes sense to kind of package it locally. So packaging isn't just about collection at the edge, it's also about packaging. And then once that package is created and optimized, it's put into the cloud to be essentially then aggregated and looked at. So that's really kind of the big differences. Where is the most value going to be generated for that user, depending on who that user is? The data scientist probably doesn't care about a specific machine. They care about all the machines. So the data scientist is going to want one set of data in the cloud, and your operator is going to have a completely different perspective on that.
Yeah, one of the big themes of this forum, as you know, is sustainability. And what do you see as a technology vendor's role, let's say, in helping improve sustainability efforts for their ecosystem? That'd be customers or partners. What do you see on that?
Yeah, that's a good one. I think I think first off, there's a lot of talk about the supply chain with that, and I don't want to minimize the importance of that because I do think it is important to understand where your stuff comes from and how it's put together. But I actually look at it from a vendor perspective a little bit differently. I kind of reverse the order of priority. For us, it's about making sure that somebody buys something from us, we're able to take care of them for a long time. Because tech refreshes are disruptive, they're expensive, they're hard to do at the edge. So if we can make it so we can deploy a system and support multiple versions of software on that system and not say, oh, now that there's a new version of Windows out, you have to replace your stuff. If we can kind of carry that forward, and if we can provide, say, monitoring and management services for that customer for the long haul. So to me, it's a question of, the first thing to do is sustainable is actually, can you actually provide a sustainable capability to a customer first? And then it's all about the downstream stuff of, where does your NVMe drive come from or something like that?
Right, and as a final question, how did edge computing, let's say, help create sustainable operations for companies?
Well, I think again, it kind of goes back to if you look at the IT types of technology that are coming to the fore, that have been around for a while in the IT space, like containerization and virtualization, that makes it easy to keep software in place longer. It also makes it more manageable. So I do think that there's an aspect of consolidation of compute resources is going to save on energy because you're able to use less computers, and so your energy profile goes down. Again, if you have a vendor who focuses on long-term support, and your enterprise vendors tend to do, then you can get into a situation where you can have longer life. And those are kind of the two biggies today. But when you look down the road to some of the big guys, you're starting to see research come out on things like cooling, especially like water-cooled cooling and things like that. So there's a whole bunch of innovation in the pipeline in that space, but right now it's really about maximizing time and lowering consumption. Ultimately, optimization will come too with innovation.
Yeah, I couldn't agree with you more, Jason. Jason Andersen, Vice President, Strategy and Business Line Management at Stratus. Thank you so much for being here today. And this is Craig Resnick coming to you for the 2023 ARC Advisory Group Orlando Forum. Thanks so much. Have a great day.